Okay. We were last week. We discussed b'chol levavcha. You have to love God with both your hearts, and we discussed how we can love God with our evil inclination, our yetzer tov and our yetzer hara. And we went through that exactly what that means, and sometimes we use our negative traits for something positive, and sometimes, unfortunately, our positive traits can be used for something negative. Sometimes we're too kind, we're too nice. So I want to move on today to b'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha. Hopefully, we'll get through them both, but there's never any guarantees. And okay, so what does it mean about that? B'chol levavcha, with all your hearts. That was last week, even though we only have one heart, but there are 4 parts of the heart, I think. But any cardiologist here can fill me in. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha. So what does b'chol nafshecha mean? What does it mean to love God with all our soul? Anybody? So it could mean just not too much. I mean, it could mean it's like emphasis. You have to, like we say in English, maybe that's where with all your you put his heart and soul into something. 100%.
All your ability, all your ability, yeah.
All your ability, all your heart and soul. So I don't know if that comes from, my assumption is that expression, to put your heart and soul into something, comes from the Shema. I would assume. I don't know that. So it could be, it really is not adding so much. It's just sort of emphasis that we have to love God fully with all our heart. I don't even know what it means with all our soul. I don't exactly know what a soul means. But with all our, it could mean all our physical being, all our spiritual sides, with all aspects of our life. Of course, that probably is true, but the rabbis always look for additional meaning, even when it's true. The Torah does say things for emphasis, and I mentioned a number of times the Ibn Ezra, especially. He's not the only one, but the Ibn Ezra is probably who's one of the one of the 3 classical commentaries on the Chumash. There's Rashi in the medieval. There's Rashi, Ramban, and Ibn Ezra. And the Ramban, when he began his commentary on the Chumash, said, "I'm going to really begin with Rashi and Ibn Ezra." And he often quotes him, and he often disagrees with him. Sometimes he agrees with him, often he disagrees with him. The Ibn Ezra today is less studied. The Ibn Ezra is too I don't know what the word is. His views are not so orthodox all the time. Let's just put it that way. He has very untraditional views at times, but the Ibn Ezra was a great Pashtan, a fascinating figure. Marty Lection gave a number of classes on him. So the Ibn Ezra he doesn't get excited. The assert they brought here, it says Achor, it's Shamor, big deal. Here it's an extra word there. He says when people talk, or when Avram Avinu, the famous Rashi, by Eliezer, or the servant of Avram who finds a wife for Yitzchak. So the story's retold, 67 verses. Why do you tell it again? So the first session, the first major topic, the Chamalivu did with us, is the repetitions in the Bible. Half of Sefer Bereshit is telling over the other half. Every story in Sefer Bereshit is pretty much repeated. All the stories gets repeated a lot. So many stories, the story of the Meraglim. So we'd often focus on the differences and the beautiful differences between the way the story is told the first and the second time. In the case, the brilliance of the servant, whose name is never mentioned, by the way. It's never said that he's Eliezer. Just the emphasis on money when he's talking to Laban's family, and the emphasis, it's just different things that are very beautiful, that it's impossible, it's a coincidence. But the Ibn Ezra is no big deal. The Chama couldn't stand that explanation. Like, what do you mean no big deal? Why would the Chumash waste its time? So the Ibn Ezra just says the Torah talks like that, it tells over the story. And whenever you tell a story, you never use the exact wording. He extends that to the Aseret HaDibrot. He even extends that to the reason given for the Aseret HaDibrot. So that's a view that today is very not, it's not in vogue. Things go in vogue. Certain commentaries go in vogue, in and out of style. So that style, which I agree, it's not an uplifting style. What do you mean, Torah just repeating itself? That's we would expect every word to have great meaning. So that's the approach that generally is very widely accepted across the board. That no, we don't say the differences is just a manner of speech, but it is true at the same time that yes, there are things for emphasis. Not every word is necessarily teaching us tremendous new things. The Torah will often emphasize idea, right? I mentioned that, Jennifer, right? One being physical and spiritual. That's what I mentioned before. Thank you. So it could be there's emphasis, but the rabbis have a comment here. The rabbis say afilu notel et namshecha, that even if God is taking your soul, you have to love God so much that you're willing to give up your life. And that, of course, was the famous story by Rabbi Akiva, that when Rabbi Akiva was dying, the Romans are combing his body away, and he is suffering. And Rabbi Akiva is saying, Baruch Hashem. I don't know exactly. It's a very difficult Gemara. This is very difficult for us to us normal human beings to relate to. Rabbi Akiva says, my whole life, I pine to know how would I be able to love God with all my soul. I don't know how to do that. Now he's no teleth nafshi. Now he's taking away my soul. So Baruch Hashem, I have the opportunity to truly love God with all my soul. So that's a beautiful thing. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. No, this is it's very difficult because it's sort of beyond human. It's also difficult because it's not really true. In other words, we don't want to die al Kiddush Hashem. We want to live on Kiddush Hashem. There's no goal in life that we should have to lose our life because of Judaism. I just mentioned before, I just got back from Greece last night. So a lot of people are probably unaware that Greece, and it was interesting on the last night, everybody goes around what they enjoyed about their trip. It's actually very, very, very beautiful. So one person commented that a few people actually mentioned this. They had no idea about Greece and the Holocaust. People think, how many Jews lived in Greece? It's nothing. And people don't realize that Greece had the second highest percentage of Jews killed. Close to 90% of all Greek Jews were killed. In Salonika was 97%. Salonika had 50,000 Jews before the war, and 97% of them were killed. If I don't want to get into this whole thing now, it's sort of not our topic, but there's the rabbi in Salonika was accused by many of being a collaborator. It's a very complex figure because he gave the Germans all the list of all the Jews in Salonika. So that's why it's easier for them to round everybody up. I assume he thought, we claim he thought that he, was doing, they would help, they wouldn't do it, whatever it is. But there's a lot of Holocaust in Greece, much more than people realize. And Greece was also a very important city. It was I say, like Irva Ein V'Yisrael. Rabbi Yosef Karo lived there. It was the most important Sephardic city after the expulsion in 1419. No other city was as great, and so many rabbis there. As you should know, I'll just say one thing. I hope you don't mind. The way many Jews were saved from Greece was Salonika was about 70% Jewish. It was like a major city, and like well over 50% of the city were Jewish, and they were all traditional Jews. And so everything closed down on Shabbos because and the Jews controlled all the ports. Ben Gurion went to law school for a year, at least in Salonika. And when he got there, he said that Salonika is the only Jewish labor city in the world, like blue collar, like kibbutz, Jews should do blue collar work. That was the early Zionists. So Jews should dig the swamp, train the swamps, and work on farms. All the stuff Jews in America don't like to do. So that's what Ben Gurion wanted. He said that you have that in Salonika. Jews were postal workers, and Jews worked on the ports. And in 1924, when there was a transfer of population between Greek and Turkey, a million, the Christians and Muslims were transferred from one country to the other. And anyways, they passed the law that first of all, you have to keep everything closed on Sunday. So Jews couldn't work on Shabbos and Sunday. And they wanted to open up stuff on Shabbos. So Jews couldn't survive anymore economically. So they left. Many Jews left, and that saved their life. Anyway, but this idea, b'chol nafshecha, that we have to give up our life, it's a terrible thing. What do you mean? B'chol nafshecha. So it's I find it, besides the humanity of it, very difficult. That what person can actually, I'm so happy I'm being killed now because, you say Shema when you're being killed, unfortunately. You accept it, but you don't do it as a matter of love. So it could be, b'chol nafshecha is really a very negative thing, right? Sometimes you have to love God. Our heart is always something good. Our heart is very positive. We identify the heart as a giving heart, a wonderful heart. So that's good. You have to love God when things are good, and you have to love God when things are bad. But we're going to see that's the explanation of b'chol modecha. It could be. But just let me show you something in the Sifri where this actually comes from. And I really and another reason why I thank you so much for coming this year, giving me the opportunity to research. I had never looked in the Sifri before. Rashi's comment is the Sifri is the midrashic halachic commentary on Sefer Dvarim. The history of halacha of Jews is that the psukim in the Chumash. And you have what we call midrash halacha. When we say midrash, we often mean midrash agadah. We mean the stories, different things. That's it's totally different genre of midrash. Then there's midrash halacha. The way the rabbis derive secondary level, additional level of interpretation, which we've discussed, doesn't mean it's the plain meaning of the text, but they derive halakhic ideas from the text. So the Sifri is a commentary on Sefer Dvarim, and that basically serves the basis of the Mishnah. The Mishnah comes later. The Mishnah is really being built on the Midrash Halacha, that it's putting the Sifri is run like pasuk by pasuk. It's sort of a commentary on the Chumash. The Mishnah is not a commentary on the Chumash. The Mishnah is a standalone text. But just let's take a look at the Sifri here. Yeah, I'm not the only one, if I can say that, who had difficulty with what Rabbi Akiva said. So the Sifri here says like this. Let me go up a little bit. I think here. So the Sifri quotes, Safari is great, it's got everything here. Okay. B'chol nafshecha, afilo notel nafshecha. Even if he's taking your soul. So this, with story of Rabbi Akiva, etc., it comes from here, the Sifri. B'cheinu omer. Okay. Now the Gemara, the Sifri continues. Rav Shimon ben Nashil omer v'chiyav sholo adam leher b'chol yom. Is it possible to die every day? So this is a very fascinating critique of that view. In other words, you have to love God with all your heart and with all your soul. If loving God with all your soul means you have to die for God, well, you can only die once. So, and presumably, b'chol nafshecha, you have to do every day. So how can it be? So it cannot be, right? B'chol nafshecha cannot be you give your soul, because you can't die every day. Now, I find fascinating. I looked up, here, I'll show you. I looked up the Sifri. Originally, I was looking in the Malbim. The Malbim Meir, why do I forget his name? Meir Levush ben Yechiel Michal. I think that's what his name is. It's an acronym. The Malbim died 1880s. He was offered to be the chief rabbi of New York City. He was very lucky he didn't take the job. That was one of the disasters of American Jewish history, is the appointment of the one and only chief rabbi of New York City. How many people are aware there was a chief rabbi of New York City? Yeah, Rev, anybody know who he was? Lots of people know who he was. Who was he?
No, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef.
Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, RJJ, the school RJJ, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef. There are probably people here who went to RJJ. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, he was the darshan in Vilna. He was the rabbi didn't speak every week. The rabbi was a halachic expert. Then they had the darshan, who also was no slouch, but he was more of an orator. He was a great speaker. That Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, to be the darshan and Dilna is it's not, God forbid, saying he wasn't a great Talmid Chacham. But the Malbim, anyways, that was RJJ, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef. It was a whole disaster. They had offered the job to the Malbim earlier, I think. Anyways, the Malbim, in his commentary, he always comments. So they print the Sifri in his commentary on the Chumash. Malbim is also not so used today, but he's the one who always distinguishes why did the word used up and chema, whenever the word, or sasun and simcha, whenever the word Torah uses two distinct words, he's the exact opposite of the Ibn Ezra. Like every little extra vav has a whole new meaning, like the exact opposite approach. Anyways, in the Sifri, which in the moment I have to write to the people at Sefaria, I don't know now, you need some of the early manuscripts, but in the Sifri printed in the Malbim, it gives you what mitzvah is. And if you notice, the Sifri just said, can you die every day? And that's it. He doesn't explain it. So what does it mean? In the Sifri, it does explain it. It says there is another mitzvah, although this also is problematic. What's the mitzvah b'chol nafshecha? And maybe that's the mitzvah is brit milah. Brit milah. That's what the Rav Shimon ben Yasser says. In the edition quoted that, because that you do once, but it's permanent. It's like sort of taking your soul, taking part of your body. The Greeks banned milah because the Greeks worshiped the body. We were at Olympic Stadium. It's really beautiful. The original Olympic Stadium from 1896. It's like Wrigley Field. It's like right there walking on the sidewalk. It really does look quite beautiful, old fashioned. But anyways, the Greeks worship the body. Brit milah. Of course, that's problematic because what about women? So, anyways, it's what I guess what I'm pointing out is the meaning of the word b'chol nafshecha is not so simple. Yeah, Rabbi Akiva is very I want to say inspiring. I don't know what the word is. His total devotion to Judaism, but that's not realistic for people and may not even work. What do you mean? You only do that once. How can you do the mitzvah? So you say, okay, Brit Milah, that's very nice, but that only takes care of half the population. So I don't know. So that's why I'm back to, that's why I started. It's emphasis with our body and our spirit. And I noticed them, unfortunately, in the Siddur don't really talk about it. Like they don't really, I don't know. I can maybe look more, come out there, but that's what sort of what we see here. It's not a simple thing to know exactly what it means. I will point out, of course, it's not surprising that it's Rabbi Akiva who says b'chol nafshecha afilu notel et nafshecha, because Rabbi Akiva, besides this being a very high level, this is Rabbi Akiva's personality. Rabbi Akiva is the great optimist of the Jewish people. We love Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Akiva, whenever there's tragedy, Rabbi Akiva saw the greatness that will come out of the tragedy. That's the famous story of the foxes on the Temple Mount. The temple destroyed and Rabbi Akiva is laughing. That's gets thrown out of yeshiva for that, a chutzpah to laugh at the destroying temple. I'm laughing. Yeah, it's destroyed now, but it's going to be so much greater in the future. And this is always every idea of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is the last Mishnah in Yuma. So Rabbi Akiva said, forget the temple service. He says, Ashrechem Yisrael mimataratchem. We just spent 7 chapters out of 8. 7 out of 8 chapters. What is that, 87% or something? 7 out of 8 chapters. Only the 8th chapter talks about the Yom Kippur. We know that you have to fast and except can't wear leather shoes. Great. Can't wear shoes, not necessarily leather shoes. But the 7 chapters talk about the sacrificial order, the avodah, our musaf. What we do, the temple service, the Seir Hamishtalech, it atones for all our sins, the goat, the scapegoat. So that's all gone. So that's it. The temple is destroyed. God broke the covenant with us. That's why the stories of the destruction of the temple are in Masechet Gittin. We spoke about that a few weeks ago. In Masechet Gittin, Gittin is a divorce. So the exile of the Jewish people is the divorce of God. So the Jewish people, God really is divorcing us. There's no good covenant anymore. We're not connected anymore. The Jewish people, you can imagine the despair and can imagine how many of those who survived the year 70 and the destruction became not religious, which we know, of course, otherwise we'd be billions of Jews in the world. It's the time of Christianity. How come they have 1.8 billion people and we only have 13 million? Something doesn't work there. I know we had pogroms and persecutions and Holocaust. It doesn't account for it. And lots of Christians were killed in wars too. So obviously many people left the fold. So Rabbi Akiva is coming along and he's telling the people, don't Korban, it's very nice. The Torah has this elaborate temple service to gain atonement. That's just a means to an end. It's not the real thing. The real thing is God in heaven. That's how you Masechet Yuma in. Ashrechem Yisrael mimataratchem. Blessed are you, the Jewish people, who purifies you. It's God in heaven. You don't need sacrifice. Of course, when we have the temple, we'll bring it. But as we know, that's what all the prophets say. The sacrifices are to make us more moral. They're not some voodoo service. We feed the gods. That's what the Greeks believe. Really, that's what the Greeks believe. The Greeks believe humans become gods, or this is Western civilization, and the Greeks believe you appease the gods, and Athens is the god of wisdom, Athena. That's why the city is called Athens, right? It's for the god of wisdom, right? They have all the gods in Greece, but they believe, the gods, you have to appease the gods. That's idolatry. That's a very un-Jewish idea. So that's Rabbi Akiva. The temple is destroyed. He's laughing. The temple is destroyed. He's saying to people, you don't need a temple. Just do tshuva. Just repent properly. Treat your fellow human being like properly, and that's more important than any goats that you throw over a mountain. Anyway, so it's not surprising that Rabbi Akiva would see, even if he's being killed, I think Rabbi Akiva would have preferred not to be killed. I don't think in other words, you have to understand this idea of Rabbi Akiva. Now I have the opportunity to b'chol nafshecha. It's not that Rabbi Akiva, in the context of his life, everything negative that happens is something positive. Even his death can inspire. That's what the rabbis say. The death of the righteous serves as an atonement. That's a comment. Where do you think the Christians get it from, right? We have a lot of ideas that we know from Christianity that sort of revolt, that we are like, ooh, that's so not Jewish, really come from our sources. Maybe the Christians took it in a way that we wouldn't take it. But this idea that the death of the righteous atones, that's all of Christianity, is said by Chazal. It's said by Miriam originally. When Miriam died in the desert, she's the first one of the great people who died in Parsha Chukat. So it's right by the Para Aduma there, by the sacrifice. So that's what Rashi already quotes it, that the death of the righteous brings atonement. So what does that mean? It's not voodoo, it's not magic. When a righteous person dies, so you have to step up to the plate. You have to be righteous. You have to learn from what they did, right? Rav Soloveitchik, many times the sitting, Shiva is an opportunity to focus on life. We're all mortal. And therefore, when somebody dies, we begin to realize their own mortality. You live a little different. When death is far away, have a good time. When it's close by, you think differently. So that's what Shiva is supposed to do. So when a great sage dies, it's supposed to motivate us. Oh my God, we just lost this person. The Chavetz Chaim died. You know what? He died in his honor. I'm not going to talk Lashon Hara for 10 minutes a day. Okay, that's better than, somebody mentioned that yesterday, that even when they were sleeping on the bus, it was great that Dr. Mark Shrew was talking, because nobody spoke Lashon Hara when he spoke. If you just sit on the bus for 3 hours and nobody talked, you're going to sit, so in honor of right. By the way, the rabbis do say that they don't tell people don't talk Lashon Hara ever. You don't tell somebody never talk Lashon Hara, because it's ridiculous. That's not going to be true. The Gemara says everybody talks Lashon Hara. We should try to eliminate. We should try to talk less Lashon Hara. Your goal on Yom Kippur is not to talk no Lashon Hara, because then the goals are unrealistic, and everybody knows that. If you set the goals too high, you don't do anything. You have to set a normal, realistic goal. The rabbis we all talk Lashon Hara. Everybody, that's life. We can't not talk, and that's yes. We try to talk good. Many of the times we talk good things, but okay. So anyways, that's but the death of the righteous should inspire. So that's the B'chol Nafshecha, Rabbi Kiva. You look at it in the context of his life, it has a slightly different meaning than we just look at it totally divorced from everything else. But anyways, that's it. Whether it means Brit Milah, whether it means dying, we want to live al Kiddush Hashem. I will point out something very interesting, right? Just people beware. So the three cardinal sins that one is supposed to give up one's life: idolatry, adultery, and murder, right? You all other mitzvot you have to violate or to save your life. What happens if one doesn't? When you travel to Europe, so you learn they don't teach you this in yeshiva, but you learn that in Spain, more Jews stayed in Spain than left Spain. Well, what do you think all the Jews in Spain left? Or are you kidding? Well, it's going to leave Spain. Such a wonderful life, the golden age. I mean, it was, okay, then it wasn't so as golden, but still, the Jews were very well integrated. I mean, think God forbid if the Jews were told you can't practice Judaism in America. What, do you think every Jew would leave America? That's not the way it goes. So many Jews stayed behind. Many of them tried to secretly practice Judaism, but they outwardly did idolatry. They did all kinds of things. What if a Jew doesn't? A non-Jew puts a gun to your head. It says, "I'll kill you unless you commit idolatry, unless you commit adultery, unless you, God forbid, kill somebody else." That's the worst of the three. Unless you kill somebody else, and the person kills somebody else. So is he guilty of murder? So that's it. So the halach is no, at least by avodah zarah, for sure not. You wouldn't give him a death penalty. It's a person who violates idolatry under duress is not an idolater. He violated the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Just remember, in other words, he didn't violate idolatry. The mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, the mitzvah of sanctifying God's name, means that you have to be willing to give up your life, like Rabbi Akiva did to teach Torah. He's going to give up his life, otherwise the end of Judaism. But if you don't, most people don't have that strength of character. It's very hard. And we can't judge anybody. You can never judge anybody to get their place. Nobody knows what they would do. It's a hypothetical. We know that the chief rabbi of Spain did convert to Christianity. That's why you never heard of him. Many great rabbis. It's maybe we're just again increased. I know. Again, this is a slightly different thing. Most rabbis believed in Shabtai Tzvi. Okay, that's really a separate issue. But don't think rabbis are like they're humans and they make mistakes and they do all kinds of things. So it's not considered idolatry. It's considered a lack of Kiddush Hashem. It's not even a Chilul Hashem. It's interesting. The Rambam doesn't say it's a Chilul Hashem. I don't think. The Rambam says you fail to do Kiddush Hashem, because we understand that. So that's important. People who are not on the level of Rabbi Akiva, that's me and probably everybody else here, and And if a person is not willing to do afilu no telat nafshecha, that doesn't mean the person violated idolatry. It did become historically a big issue when the Jews in Spain, many of them came back to Amsterdam, when they had the opportunity to leave Spain later on and return as Jews, and many of them wanted to return as Jews. Those Jews who had fled Spain and didn't sort of, hide underground, there was a lot of tension because we were willing to do all the sacrifice, but that's human nature. I went through this. I'm much, you're some low-life Jew who was willing to, pretend to be Christian. And now that it's okay, you just go with the flow. You're like a convenient Jew. You can imagine the tension those things created, but that's an unfortunate tension. Okay, that's b'chol nafshecha. Let's discuss b'chol modecha. What does b'chol modecha mean? And any questions on b'chol nafshecha? If anybody make a comment before we go. Okay, if you have, okay. So what's so you have to love God with all our heart, with all our soul. You have to love God a lot. Now you have to love God ma'odecha. So some say, ma'od, a lot. That's the word. Ma'odecha, ma'od. That's what the word says. That's what the Eitz Chaim in the Yotzer Tefillah says. That's what he says. What does it mean? You have to love God a lot. Ma'od, ma'od. Again, it's emphasis with all your heart, with our soul, and then we review kind of and with ma'od ma'od, you have to love God very, very much. Okay, very good. What is Rabbi? Again, this is true, and that may be the pshat in the verse, but the rabbis are always going to look for an additional level, something else that b'chol modecha must be teaching us. So let's take a look. Anybody want to comment, or we take a look at the Mishnah?
All your wealth.
I'm sorry?
All your wealth.
All your wealth. Yeah, good. Very good. Very good. So we'll get there and we'll discuss if that's one. What's the explanation? Very good. So that's what the Mishnah says. And then we'll take a look in the Sifri and see how they put it. Okay, so this interesting is Masechet Brachot. It's the last Mishnah in Masechet Brachot, which begins Me'emetai according to Shema Ba'arvi. But I think I mentioned this even last week. How a Masechet Brachot is really broken up into, I guess, 4 units. Unit number 1 is Kriyat Shema. Unit number 2 is Tfilah, the Shmona Esrei. Unit number 3 is Birkat Hamazon. Those are the brachot, we say, so to speak. The Shema has 7 brachot, 2 before, 1 after in the morning, 2 before, 2 after in the evening. So there's 7 brachot. It's called Masechet Brachot, but it's talking about Shema. But Shema, Shmona Esrei, Birkat Hamazon, and the 9th chapter is all the brachot we make on thunder and lightning, on Niagara Falls, on Greece is a beautiful country. And when I went there, I was convinced that when the rabbis talk about whoever hasn't seen the temple has never seen a beautiful building. I am 100% convinced the rabbis had Greece in the back of their mind, because the rabbis comment, Yavan, Greece, Yepet. The rabbis do appreciate the beauty of Greece, and they were trying to say, the temples in Greece, our temple, the Acropolis, what they built there, our temple is more beautiful because you drive through the countryside. It's really a beautiful, beautiful country. So when you see beauty, you have to make a bracha. You see the Grand Canyon, or wherever, these beautiful nature, God's glory, you have to make a bracha. So the 9 chapters, all the brachot you have to make for unique occasions. You got rescued at Entebbe, at a place where a miracle happened, you have to make a bracha. So the Gemara then, the last Mishnah in Masechet Brachot gets back to Shema, like it began. I have Adam nevarech al hara kashem shu mevarech al tova. Well-known idea that somebody has to bless on bad things, just like you do on good things. Shenemar. That's why I quoted this, but I never actually said the third part, right? I said we'd come back to this. Was, I think, 2 weeks ago. So it says, that's we discussed last week. We just discussed, but that's not what the Mishnah is talking about. It's presumably b'chol modecha. That's going to be the idea of Mavarech ala tova. B'chol mamonecha. Modecha means all your money. Again, that has nothing to do with all the good and all the bad, unless you want to say money is sometimes good and sometimes bad. But I don't think that's what the Mishnah means. We know that's true, that money can be terrible, can be wonderful, but I don't think that's what the Mishnah means. What it means is davar acher. There's a second interpretation. B'chol modecha B'chol midah u'midah shehu moded lo have a model lo ma'od ma'od. Again, that's you see the ma'od ma'od. That another interpretation. In every measure, every measure that God gives you, whatever life throws at you, unfortunately, sometimes life is not so kind. You should give thanks. That's chayav l'adam. You have to bless God even for the negative. This is also very difficult. It's also very difficult, but that's what the Mishnah says. So either b'chol modecha, according to the Mishnah, either means with all your money, or it means with anything that happens. Now, are these two opinions in dispute? What do you think? Are they arguing with each other? Or there are two interpretations, and we have lots of things. Lots of things. There are two mean. A verse can mean two things, or do they argue with each other? So, what's the hint that I think I don't know for sure that they're not arguing with each other. So then it's not presented as a machloket. It would say Rabbi Akiva Omer this and Rabbi Lezer says this. Another interpretation, it means this and it also means that. We have that lo tamod al hadam. I don't know why I'm thinking that pasuk. Don't stand by the blood. So the Gemara is like not 15, but a lot of interpretations, including one you shouldn't eat before you daven, before you're repelled for your dam, your blood. The Gemara has a lot of things. Often the Gemara learns many ideas from one verse. So that's what you have here. So two ideas. Now, what's the problem? So there's a problem addressed by Rashi already. What do you mean? I have to love God with all my soul and with all my might. So why in the world do I have to love God with all my money? Isn't that already included? If I've loved God with all my heart, all my soul, so why in the world do I have to love God with? Obviously, I have to love God with all my money. That goes without saying. So Rashi says, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Let's find this Sifri here. Rabbi Shiva. Okay,
Rabbi, I think there's a comment that for some people, their money is more important than their life.
Correct. So let's take a look. This is back to our Sifri, our rabbinic comment. Now we have to understand what that means. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer im nemar b'chol nafshecha. Just okay, b'chol nafshecha. That's it. Now we go right away. B'chol modecha. Im nemar b'chol nafshecha. Lama nemar b'chol modecha. What's that adding? Obviously, b'chol modecha is included in b'chol nafshecha. V'im nemar b'chol modecha. So now it says, and if you say b'chol modecha, ma'od moed, you have to love God with everything, then you don't need b'chol nafshecha. In other words, they both say the same thing. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov is saying b'chol nafshecha, modecha are really both saying the same thing in different ways. One is focusing on, moed moed, but you don't need both of them. That's his question. You don't need both of them. So lama nemar b'chol nafshecha. So he says, yesh lecha shegufo chavilov hamon. There's some people, their body is more important than their money. The most important thing is, their physical, their life. And there's some people whose body, whose money is more important. Money is more important than life. Without money, people go bankrupt and commit suicide. They don't have money. They don't want to live. So that's it's got to be. We'll come back to that in a second. Now here it's a debate. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yaakov Omer, it doesn't have even that mar b'chol nafshecha kal v'chomer. So he doesn't equate them. That's what I said. If it says b'chol nafshecha, see, according to Rabbi Lezer, they're both pretty much saying the same thing. You only need one or the other. So each one is they say the same thing. You have to love God with everything, but one talks about the money aspect and one talks about your life aspect. They're both saying you have to love God with money and your life, but we're going to emphasize for the people who love their money a lot, we're going to talk about your money. And people like their life more, we're going to talk about your life, but they're really saying the same thing. That's Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Rabbi Yaakov says b'chol nafshka includes b'chol modecha. And so I don't need b'chol modecha. It's not about money. It's not about money. It's a different opinion. So that's what the Mishnah says. No, it means, and as I'm saying, it seems to present it as two distinct opinions. They're arguing with each other, apparently. Either it's one or the other. But here you have to love God with everything, anything that he throws your way. Now, let's discuss. How is it possible for somebody to love their money more than their life? So I guess I just said it. There are people like that. God, terribly, whatever, commit suicide, their money's everything. So I thought that that's why the Mishnah, for it was sort of inconceivable to the rabbis of the Mishnah. They were what we have the right. What's the language in the Mishnah? Just let me get this straight. Right, the Mishnah doesn't present it the same way. I think. Hold on, let me just look again. Right. The Mishnah doesn't say that if there is somebody who loves your money more than their life. That doesn't appear in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, b'chol modecha just means with all your money. It's not saying you love your money more than life. Just, in other words, you can love God. Yeah, I love God, but I'm not going to write a check. And in other words, you have to spend money, right? Yeah, I care about the poor, but how much am I going to do for the poor? How much money am I going to write? You put your money where your mouth is. That's what the mission is not saying. It's for somebody who loves their money more than their life. It's just saying you have to love God with all your soul. So the guy, he learns and he davens and he really loves God and he wants to dwell on God and study philosophy, whatever, Hasidic, however he feels he can get close to God. But spending money is a different story. Money's for me. And we have that. Believe me, we have lots of that. So that's what the Mishnah says. No, you can't do that. You have to spend money too for your love of God. But the Mishnah doesn't say for those people who love money more than their bodies. I don't know. I'm just saying to the Mishnah, maybe that was inconceivable. What do you mean somebody loves their money more than their life? But in the Sifri, that's not inconceivable. And Rashi quotes, it's not inconceivable. People love their money. So I think, unfortunately, there are people, that's really a sickness, but that does happen. People like their money. But you also have to understand when it comes, it's this week's Parsha, the mitzvah of tzedakah, is in this week's Parsha. So one of the mitzvah of tzedakah that we don't observe today, and I don't think we should observe. It's good we don't observe it today. Is when a wealthy person becomes poor. So what's the halacha? You have to bring him back to his original wealth. So a guy has $1 billion and he goes bankrupt. So you have to give him $1 billion in tzedakah. So that would be terrible if we did that today. I don't know if the halacha, but that's what the halacha didn't talk about billionaires. The halacha talked about a guy with horses and chariots. So he had 5 chariots. You have to give him back 5 because losing money, anybody who's experienced that or talk to people, it's really crushing. It's much worse than not making money. To have money and to lose it can kill a person. And that's probably, I think this comment really had deep psychological insight. They don't necessarily like their money more than their life, but without their money, their life is finished. And it destroys them mentally. And the halacha was aware of that. And therefore, the halacha said you want to restore somebody to their original wealth. The reason I say we don't observe this day, and we shouldn't observe this day, because there's so many basic needs. In other words, that's the government does $500 billion, surplus. But not if we don't have enough money to provide for the poor. If not everybody has health care, we can't put the rich back to where they once were. But that's a fascinating halacha, which I think is based on this idea that somebody's money can really determine what their life is. The other thing you can say in today's world, nobody will tell you if you ask them point blank, what's more important to your money or your life? Nobody will tell you their money. But I think many of us are guilty, maybe myself, guilty of we don't live that way. In other words, when somebody works 85 hours a week and he wants to become a partner in the law firm, and they in their business and they're 20 hours a week day working, so to make more money, it's not enough. We have 42%. We want to control the market. So in a sense, they live their life that they put their money over the life. I don't know, but maybe we can make our money so important that without realizing it, our money becomes more important. That we neglect our health. I mean, everybody does that, and not everybody. Lots of people, we do that, because we're focused on some other goal that becomes not actually more important than our life, but practically more important than life. The way many, we don't always take proper care of our bodies. And that's perhaps what the Mishnah says. When it's not that somebody's going to say, oh yeah, I really love my money more. That's like already semi not normal. So like I said, either it just impacts on your life so much that it really can destroy a person's life, or we live our life like that. Or what it really means, you have to love God very much, mo'od mo'od. You have to love God a lot, and and you have to use your money. You can say you love God, but there's a tangible. It's not just philosophical or not just by learning Torah. You have to do actions and helping other people. That's very manifest, and for many people, giving away money is very hard. The Torah. Yisak is one of the most important mitzvahs. I'm just almost finished my Dvar Torah. So hopefully you'll get early this afternoon. That when I'm writing this week is on Staka for this week's Parsha. But the Ram, we pointed out, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, the Rambam says that Staka is the most important mitzvah I say there is. But it's hard. It's hard for people to give away. And, especially, how much do you have to give away? That's, how many people really give away 20%? I don't want to. Many people, we have some wonderful people who give away tons of money. Some people are wonderful, but believe me, if every Jew gave even only 10%, forget the 20%, which is better, they give only 10%, you wouldn't have any needs for anything. All Jewish education would be free, everything we need. We'd have all the things we need. We could pay our teachers, our rabbi, our servant. We could pay everybody properly if everybody gave 10% of their income. They don't, believe me. I worked as an accountant for 10 years. Believe me, I did hundreds of tax returns. 98% of people are not giving 10. I'm 98. Many. I mean, I worked. Many people I did were non-Jews. When I was working at Arthur Anderson, I love Hashalom. It was actually fascinating to see. I did actually say, I will say something beautiful. Jews give way more money than non-Jews. That I saw with my own eyes. We know that, but when you see it on tax returns, and when I was working at Arthur Anderson, that firm doesn't exist anymore, Enron, that whole, whatever. In John, I was working in their tax department, and basically I was doing. Because I originally got a CPA in the States and a CA in Canada. So whenever I was working in the international tax department, and basically they had consultants working around the world, Bolivia, Brazil, China, and they wanted everybody to make the same after-tax income. It's very interesting philosophy. There was $200,000 in Iowa, probably goes a lot further than in New York City. So, okay, so I don't know if they did it state by state, but so everybody, if you get stationed in Tel Aviv, which apparently is the most expensive city in the world, one of the most expensive cities in the world is actually Tel Aviv. It's very sad, but it's true. One of the topics, or you get stationed in some, in Luxembourg, I don't know, like some Africa where things are really, really cheap. So, and they're paying you $200,000 in both places. It's not fair. So the idea was that they adjusted the income based on what they did. Anyway, so that's what our job was, to figure out, to calculate all this stuff. So I much prefer doing this to teach Torah. But anyway, so what happened was, you would see, we're doing these tax returns, and all these people are earning good money. These are people, they're top people, and see how little charity people give. It's kind of sad, because and who gave charity? To their churches. Like the people who gave were religious people. Like that's where many of the charities went, to churches and things like. Sometimes the Red Cross, Canadian Cancer Society, it gave very nice, still very nice, but very little. And Jews give much more. But believe me, most Jews are not giving 10%. You're supposed to give 20. And that's only if you're middle class or lower middle class. If you're wealthy, you're supposed to give more than 20%. I'll just end with a story. I'm like, this is a story almost like the Rabbi Akiva story. We're not on that level. Rav Schachter, who shares, for 4 years when I was at Yeshiva University. So Rav Schachter he still lives on 24 Bennett Avenue. So I don't know if you know Washington, it's 24 Bennett Avenue. It's an apartment building. Okay. So there are people who live in apartment buildings their whole life, but most people strive to buy a house. Okay. I don't know if I assume it's a 4-bed. I was in the apartment more than once, but he lived a 4-bedroom apartment, 9 kids, doesn't own a car. No, it's not a fancy whatever. And Rav Schachter would tell us how, and he taught him why you didn't pay like they paid Arthur Anderson. They paid less. And this was in the 80s, they were paying way less, the whole whatever. And he would tell us how wealthy he is. He says, I give much more than 20%. I'm very wealthy. When the halacha says give 20%, that's for normal people. Living in America, I'm making a 6-figure salary, whatever, but $100,000 doesn't go very. So it's like, I said, oh my gosh, but I guess if you don't own a car, you don't feel that's going to be whatever it is, it's a different thing. So it's not easy. People work hard for their money and they don't like to give it away. Other people love to give it away. We know the research shows that people who give away money feel good about themselves. I read a book a number of years ago, but the guy interviewed all these million, and in order to be interviewed in the book, and the book was written in the 80s, so it's more, you had to have given away $1 million. Like you had to write at least $1 million check in your life. At least one time in your life, wrote $1 million check. So they interviewed people who wrote $1 million checks. So they and all those on that, they had such a good feeling about it. Like you feel, okay, once you have so much money, what are you gonna do with it? Like you can't take it with you, and even to give it out to your kids, okay, it's also not healthy. Anyways, I don't want to hear kibbutz, but I think that's what the Mishnah is saying. B'chol modecha is you have to give away your money, even for people who it's hard. Anyways, okay, so b'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha, in many ways, we see already saying the same thing. See, it's not so easy to explain what they mean. With everything we like, ma'od, with all our money, you love your money more, but these are different ways the rabbis are trying to delineate different models of how we have to express our love. That's free. Maybe I'll do it inside in a second. I actually think it ends in a beautiful way. So you see already the diversity of views or the different ways. So I think let's go to the free back again. That's the same. It's in the same. It's a long comment. The free there has a very long piece. You see, this is paragraph 5. We'll now go to paragraph. Why is it not going here? Oh no, because I'm not in the free. Okay, 32:7, and then we're going to go down to the end. What is it? 32:19. Okay, Rabbi Meir Omer. Rabbi Meir says, however, Omer v'ata Shema kacha b'chol levavcha, ovo b'chol levavcha ka'Avraham Avinu. B'chol nafshecha ki Yitzchak, b'chol modecha ki Yaakov. This is beautiful. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Wow. Why is Abraham, and now I'll stop, so I'll ask you, so you can't cheat. Why is Abraham b'chol levavcha? And why is Yitzchak b'chol nafshecha? And why is Yaakov b'chol modecha? So the Sifri says by Abraham, because the Sifri, it's a little bit hard to understand, because the Sifri, in other words, what exactly is its proof? But the Sifri says, this is the verse why God chose Abraham, because I know he will teach his children staka umishpat. The words that follow are staka umishpat. Those are the next two words. So somehow, why did God choose teaching your children staka umishpat is apparently a sign that you love God with all your heart, because you're putting everything into it. Staka umishpat. Therefore, it says. I don't know. It doesn't exactly explain. I thought, and it's based on this pasuk in Yeshayahu, V'ata Yisrael of the Yaakov asher b'chartiv zera Avraham ohavi. This is maybe you've heard it's based on Yeshayahu chapter 41, as Yeshayahu begins the Pirkei Nechama, which begin the chapters of consolation, which we're in the middle of reading now. So chapter 41. Yisrael is of the Yaakov I chose. He is the seed of Abraham who loved me. Or if I hear they translate in Safari, they just my friend, Vahafta. So Abraham is connected to Avat Hashem. So I think B'chol Levavcha it's really going on Vahafta, like Vahafta Hashem Okecha. That's Abraham. So the first part, and then through B'chol Nafshecha is going on Abraham Avinu. Why is Yitzchak B'chol Nafshecha? Why is Yitzchak b'chol nafshecha?
Well, he almost gave up his life.
Correct. The Akedah. He was willing to die, like Rabbi Akiva. Afilu notel nafshecha. And again, here you have, which appear where in the Slichas a lot. There's when I think most of us were taught in school, and most rabbis, when they give a talk, and they talk about the Akedah, they focus on Avram. This is Avram's great faith in God. He was willing to sacrifice his son. That's usually the emphasis we give. But in many of the Slichot and in many of the Midrashim, and for sure here, the emphasis on Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the one who was going to die. So I guess for father it's even harder, but there's a tremendous emphasis. Yitzchak. We know Yitzchak wasn't the baby, because he's talking to his father. He says, Ayeh hasel olah. Where's the sheep we're supposed to slaughter? And then Avram sort of doesn't that, he kind of got it. It dawned upon him. Like he says, "Vayachush neim yachtav," right? I forget the exact. It's so beautiful in the Rosh Hashanah Nusa. I don't remember the pasuk, but you get the idea. It's a lot of emphasis on Yitzchak b'chol nafshecha, and why is Yaakov b'chol modecha?
Actually, why is it written that Hashem nisait Avraham?
Oh, that's
Hashem
not for now. So I will tell you that will be spoken about on Parshat Va'era this year. Dr. Sokolow, that's going to be his talk on Parshat Shavuos here, because I specifically asked him to talk on Va'era because his wife, who may be online now, I didn't even know, just sent me an article that he wrote about how to teach the Akedah. So I said, Dr. Sokolow, why don't you teach Parshat Va'era this year? And the article is entitled "How Not to Teach the Akedah." So whatever. So that we'll hear. But maybe before Rosh Hashanah, I think that'll be addressed a little bit. But not. It's a very important question. Good, but not for now. I'm sorry. This is just way beyond what we can talk about now. But why is Yaakov Avinu b'chol modecha? So the Medrash, the Sifri we're quoting, says because of the pasuk. I think the Sifri quotes it here. Let's go back to the Sifri. The Sifri says, he was willing to sacrifice himself. Admit to Yaakov, it's like b'chol midah midah, because Yaakov had a really not such a great life. Well, hold on. So here, this is to the praise of Yaakov. I'm not worthy. This is by his dream, right? I'm not worthy of everything that God has done for me. So this is God has done so much good for me. Whatever. You have to, I actually thought it means b'chol would mean, hold on a second, that b'chol modecha by Yaakov would mean Yaakov is the person who is personified as the exemplar of integrity in your money dealings. With Lavan, Lavan changed his wages 10 times. The way he faithfully worked for 20 years, he didn't sleep, he did everything he could. So Yaakov Avinu in rabbinic literature, it's funny because of Yaakov begins, I don't want to say God forbid, as a cheat. He deceives his father. He's punished for that. Like he learned the lesson, the importance of truth. That's why Yaakov is associated with Emet. And Yaakov in his early life, Akev, it's like a snake and a heel. He wasn't so We know that. He misled his father for sure. The Medrash punishes him harshly for that. It says Haman is the result of that. The same expression is used for another time. But Yaakov learns the importance of truth. That's why Yaakov is Emet, and it's precisely by monetary truth. So I would say that Yaakov Avinu is the personification of b'chol modecha, with all the money. The Sifri is referring to b'chol midah, everything good and bad. I will quote one thing just to show you, Yaakov Avinu, b'chol midah midah. Yaakov viewed his life very negatively, unfortunately. But here you see, perhaps what I'm going to show you now is a criticism of God. I guess it is a criticism of Yaakov, and it's because he didn't quite live up to this accepting God b'chol midah. I think that's what I'm going to show you right now. So we know when Yaakov Avinu first meets Paro, what's the first thing Paro says? Yosef brings his father to meet Paro. So you meet the king.
How old are you? How old are you?
How old are you? That's
I'm
a very strange question. Can you imagine you go meeting Biden, you take your grandfather, you're invited to the Hanukkah party and in the White House, and you bring your 85-year-old father along with you, and Joe Biden, you shake his hand, Mr. President, I want you to meet father. Oh, how old are you? Like, oh, is that insane? What's Paro asking how old he is? So let's take a look at what it's quoted in the Cheskuni is quoting a midrash. Somebody has there's like this. Vayomer Paro Yaakov, kama yemei shnotecha. How old are you? Wow. Vayomer Yaakov. So what does he answer? He should have said, I'm 130. That's not what he said. Yemei shnei migurai. The years of my life are shloshim amat, 30 and 100. That's how they talk, 7 years ago, whatever. I don't know if that's the same thing. Ma'at v'ra'im. They were few, he died much younger than his father and grandfather. Few and bad. I really had a crummy life. My life. I didn't live, I didn't have the life of my parents. The Cheskuni, who's following in the school of Rashi, has an unbelievable comment. So why did he ask him? So Morat Nereza Cain. Oh, he saw his father. Oh my God. Yosef is this young, dynamic, charismatic figure, interpreter of dreams, good looking. We know, of course, extremely handsome. And it's this decrepit looking father, wrinkled and oh my God. Like he thought, if Yosef is 30 years old, 39 years old when this happened, right? He was 30 when he got really 39. So his father is 70 in the ancient world. Look, he looked terrible. So no, I'll tell you why, because I had a really bad life. I had bad life. I aged quickly. I aged quickly. That's what Yaakov says. Yaakov lived to be 147. Yitzchak lived to be 180. Why did he die 33 years old? God said to him, I saved you from Lavan, Esav, Shechem, Dina, all these things. I was so good to you. All the travails you came out of, great. Everything's going good for you now. I returned Dina, I returned Yosef, and you're going to say you've had a really bad life? Now, this is a harsh comment, because it was what he lived with. So Yosef is returned. Still, for 22 years, he thought he was dead. The way the brother said, Dina is raped. I mean, it's a high level midrash, and not an easy. But that's what the Medrash said. What are you, Yaakov Avinu? You are going to complain? Matvaraim chayecha on your life. Anino tell me I'm kaficha shvana tevot shemarta. This you said 33 words. Valim go tevot vayomer paro b'mei miguram. From the 33 words, Paro is asking the question. 33 words, you're going to die 33 years younger. So I heard this cheskuni was brought to my attention by Rabbi Dr. J.J. Schechter, who then gave an additional beautiful insight. What do you mean? Yaakov only said, I don't know, 28, 25 words, whatever. Yeah, less. Yaakov said 20 words. This is the words. Why is he punished for what Paro said? You understand? In other words, and I counted them, because I counted. They're 33 words from Vayomer Paro. In other words, he should be punished from Yemei Shnayei Chayei. That's what he said. But the punishment began at Vayomer Paro. So Rabbi Schechter explained, because the whole fact that the fact that the question had to be asked, in other words, he lived his life, he walked around moaning and groaning about his life. That too, the fact that Paro was forced to ask the question, that was part of the punishment. That was part of his non-recognition of God. So this seems to be critical of Yaakov for not doing b'chol mo'odecha mo'od mo'od. Just like we started, it's very difficult. I think it's a very harsh midrash in many ways. But that's they have to strive. That's why I always say these mitzvot are the hardest mitzvot. The easy mitzvot are to keep kosher, to keep Shabbos, not to wear shatnez. I don't know. That's really easy. Put a mezuzah. Those are easy. The hard mitzvot are to love God, to fear God, not to be jealous. The ones of care, they're 1,000 times harder. Of course, they're hard to do. To love God with all our heart, with all our soul, come on. Who can do that? Even Yaakov Avinu. So in many ways, that's a nice thing. That's I see it's late, but they were human, and that's the thing. And I'll end with this. That's, I think, what the Midrash means when the Sifri says Yaakov. What the Sifri is telling us is we have to strive to be like the Avot. We have to be like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But they're also saying something more beautiful. And I'll turn the Midrash into a positive sense. And we know the Midrashim portray, they're not afraid to criticize our Avot. Avram gets criticized, they all get criticized. Today, in the yeshiva circles, that's not acceptable. But in the Midrashic circles, it was very acceptable to criticize the Avot. And why they criticize? Because they're human beings. We can only strive to be like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov if they were human and they make mistakes like we do. They were great human beings, but they were human with foibles and problems. And they, believe me, their family dysfunction, all kinds of problems they have. And so, don't think you can't be like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yes, it's even Yaakov Avinu can't be b'chol mo'odecha, and he's still Yaakov Avinu. He's still the founder of Bnei Israel. He's a wonderful person. Yeah, in this area he failed a little bit. Okay, that's just like, okay, you talk a little lashon. What can you do? I think in many ways that midrash is very uplifting midrash. B'chol avacha b'chol nafshecha mo'odecha, to be like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's an amazing thing. That I mean, they were humans. We can be like them. but it's, of course, it's not easy. It's hard, and we're never going to reach it 100%. Maybe once in a lifetime. Rabbi Akiva, yeah, once can do this, but that's what he's saying. Rabbi Akiva, that's like once in life, and you're Rabbi Akiva. Like most people can't do that. Okay, so that's b'chol lavacha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha. So that's just very quickly to review. That's what we talked about. What does it mean? B'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha. God taking our soul. Is that what it really means? Is that practical? And is that even a good thing? We don't want b'chol nafshecha. Are we saying it's a negative thing? In other words, you have to love God when it's good, b'chol lavacha, and love God when it's bad. So, or the idea that you just have to love God a lot with our physical, right? The spirit, the physical and the spiritual, however you might want to interpret it. And we said that those who can't give up their life when He's taking our life, that's not idolatry. That's just, you didn't do Kiddush Hashem, fine. It's hard. We understand that, and that's okay. In a sense, it's a very high level, and not everybody can do that. And remember, this is Rabbi Akiva, who not only is wonderful, but Rabbi Akiva is the optimist of the Jewish people, always seeing something positive wherever there's negative. So even in his own death, he saw something positive. Then we discussed b'chol modecha ma'od ma'od. You have to love God a lot, and maybe it's the same as b'chol nafshecha. Why do you need both? So it could mean either. So right, that also the idea you have to love God with all your money, which is not easy to love God with all your money, and some people love their money more than their life. So sometimes that's really true from a mental health perspective, or somebody's value, they see their life as worthless if they've lost all their money. But it also, we know that sometimes we live our life, even though we don't really value our money more, the way we actually practice our life, and many other areas show that we don't value our life as number one idea. So that's what we're saying. And of course, you have to write checks. That's b'chol modecha. You have to you have to write checks to give tzedakah. That's why God chose Avram, because He's going to teach His children tzedakah and mishpat. That's b'chol levavcha, Avram Avinu. So that's the idea is here. We have to work on this our whole life. And this Sifri I had never seen till I prepared for this year. I never saw that comment that it's Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I find that such a beautiful idea, and we should try to put it to good health. Okay, just let me very quickly take a look question. Before I do that, we will hopefully by Sunday, I'm going to send out the Elul as scheduled, but just to give you as an appreciation, sort of a heads up, we've got some of the new speaker. I know we have a great series coming up, and including Yom Iyun on September 10th. Benny Gesundheit will be speaking, giving another shir. All kinds of Moshe Shulman teaching on Kohelet. Dr. Sokolow will continue from 3 years ago his series on the Haftorah. He'll do the Haftorah of the Yamim Norim, which he did not do back then when he did his series. And anyways, Simi Peters will teach Sefer Yonah. And and I said Rabbi Shulman Kohelet is the first time we're teaching Kohelet. Anyways, we'll send you all the details. Okay, let's just take a quick look. Will you have a special celebration for 100? Yeah, let's make a party for the 100. Please God. Okay, machzor, fine. Okay, good to move, and then regular periods. Okay, all our non-corporal, right? Who we are as a child. Okay, body and soul, correct. The laws of Karsh and laws of Per should always be understood by us as bridges. Very good. Between our body and our soul. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Greece, yes. Actually, each day we are reborn in a sense, right? B'chol yom, right? B'chol yom, yeah, that we have. Every day should be like a new excitement of the Torah. Shane, I don't know what your questions are referring to. If you want to let me know, I can try to answer them. There are 3 question marks. I'm sorry. Read with all your money. If you are poor, don't resent and blame God. Okay, that's all right. Right. That's what I mean. Whatever God gives you. So right, we were explaining it when God makes you suffer, but here you want to think of it more practical when you're poor. Whether you have a lot of money or whether you have a little money. Okay, I like that. That's very good. Don't resent and blame God for your poverty, although you are suffering. And we're rich, love and praise God. Very, very good. Thank you. In America, 90% of charitable countries by Jews. That is correct. Unfortunately, 90% of the 10, especially of the wealthy donors, with the super wealthy gifts of 10 million. I remember reading a few years ago, there were, 200 of $10 million gifts. So again, many of them are given by Jews, and very few of them go to Jewish causes. That is, supporting a hospital is for everybody, but yes, Jews have to give a lot of their, not all of their money, but you'll give much of their money to Jewish causes. And you're right, that's a big problem we have, but they're not connected to to Judaism. They don't see Judaism as relevant. That's our job as observant Jews, to make a Kiddush Hashem so people will be attracted to observant Judaism, to see how beautiful it is. And then maybe they will give, yeah. But you're right, it's very hard. Do you think Muhammadech is only about staka? People can afford it, but won't send their kids to yeshiva. So that's very bad if they don't. It's not only about staka. That's the other interpretation. Whatever measure God gives you, it's not only about money, but the main thing does seem to be about money, or more with a lot. But money is clearly one of the things. Yeah, people, that's what I'm saying. Lots of people have lots of money. They don't give. Even people who give $110 million a year in stock are often the person who gives $1,000 a year is giving way more. I mean, and not he's giving way. It's much more meaningful because when a person has $5 billion and he gives $100 million, right? The giving pledge, which I've often spoken about, where Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, amazing. Tzadikei umat olam, the righteous of the world, that all billionaires should give at least half their wealth. So last time I checked, and I check it every once in a while because I teach it every year in school, go through the giving pledge and some of the things there, really beautiful. There are about 230 people who signed the giving pledge. There are about 2,500. No, according to Forbes, there are about 23 to 2,500. I don't remember the exact number of billionaires. It was about 8%. Last time I checked, 8% of the world's billionaires had agreed to give half their money away. Where's the other 92%? So maybe 1% of them are going to give it away without signing giving pledge. And you know what? For some, and many are giving more. If you have a billionaire and giving away half your money, that's not so much. That's not, you're not giving away so much. So Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are great. Warren Buffett's giving away 99%. Bill Gates is giving over 90% away. Yeah, they are giving. Warren Buffett giving away 99% of his money means that when he dies, how old is he? He's having a Riches Yamim. What is he, about 96 already? He's still running Berkshire Hathaway. So Warren Buffett, when he dies, with the 1% will be $100 million. That's his 1%. No, that's not so bad for 1%, right? He's a 1%er, right? So it's not so good. And we need a giving pledge for Jews. You know how many Jewish billionaires there are? More than you think. And I don't see, I would be so beautiful if 10 Jewish billionaires would got together and start a giving pledge. You know how much money we make Jewish education free? All right, don't get me started on that, but it's true. Okay, where's the Cheskuni on Par Yaakov? That's in on that verse, chapter 46. I don't remember the exact verse. It's when Yaakov first meets him. It's on the pasuk Vayomer Paro al Yaakov Kama Yemei Shnai Chai. When he asked him how old he is, that's where the Cheskuni says it. The Cheskuni is printed in the new Mosad, in the Mosad Rav Kook edition of Mikrot Gedolah. I don't think it's printed in the old edition, but you can see it on Sefaria. I showed it to you on Sefaria. It's there. Cheskuni, okay. Can I share Moshe Sokolo's article? Okay, I can try to do that. May send it to me and I'll make mention of it. Okay, thank you again, and thank you. I hope the Shema for Mrs. Cronenberg. And how many years since she passed away? May I ask? Eight years. Okay, 8 years. Okay, you should have good memories and long life and many happy occasions to celebrate.
That we do.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay, everybody, have a Shabbat Shalom. Everybody will.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay.
Thank you.
This Sunday back is still his Nach series. Then next week he'll start his the Yamim Norim Elo series. By the way, we're going to do, just to let you know, on Slichas night, Rabbi Liebtag will give a shiur at 10 p.m. on Saturday night. That's September the 9th, I think. And then he'll give a shiur Erev Yom Kippur and say he's not going to give a shiur Sunday morning. Erev Yom Kippur is 5 o'clock in Israel. But then he'll give the shiur 10 o'clock Saturday night. Like 5 o'clock in the morning, he says he's up anyways. He's happy to do it. So just to let you know, he'll give the 3 Sundays. Then September 10th and September 23rd, he'll give on Saturday night. And of course, September 17th, that Sunday is Rosh Hashanah. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Did you say anything about next year? Did you change the schedule for next week? I missed the first 2 minutes.
No, I'm going to change the schedule probably starting when our school year starts. And then I'll have to, so I'll either go to 9:20 or 9:15 for the first, until we change the clock in November. I have to teach at 10:40. I have to be in school at 10:40. So I can't, now it's already 10:41. And then once we change the clock, because they make the classes a little bit shorter on Friday, so I have to start teaching at 10:20. So I start teaching 10:20, I'll have to start, I don't know, 9:10, something like that. So I hope that's okay. That works well for people. It's good in the winter. That way I'll end early. You'll have more time to prepare for Shabbos. I'm giving you like advance notice, but for now, in the summer before Labor Day, we're okay. We'll keep the 9:30 time slots. And okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Kelman.
Thank
Thank you. Shabbat
Thank you.
Shalom.
Okay,
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, have a good Shabbos,
Thank you.
everybody. Be well. Okay, enjoy. Bye-bye. Okay.